guys, Jess here, and today I wanted to bring you guys another story time. This time I wanted to talk to you guys about a phase that I went through in high school and somewhat middle school that is it's very interesting to me. Everyone goes through phases in their life where they're doing just like the craziest things, and then when you look back on it, you're like, whoa, what was I doing? Like, wait a minute. And of course, there's people who look back on them and they're fond of them as well. You may even be a mixture of the two, where it's like you super fondly enjoyed it and you're also wondering, what was I thinking at the time? People change, and that's perfectly fine. It's always great to reflect on yourself, especially knowing where you came from and like what you've been through. So Jet, you're gonna find out things that you didn't even know about me. Like, it's gonna be crazy. He don't even care. He just like, tell your story, I'm tired. So today I wanted to talk to you guys about a phase that I went through where I wore cat ears for a few years of my life. And I'm not talking about just like wearing cat ears, like, you know, you have like the wire ones that you have. I had like full on like furry ears. Like, it was a band and it was just, I don't even know. So guys, before we get into this video, I just want to thank Amy, aka Ben of Trash. She did a little bit of like art for this video. So throughout the video, you'll probably see it coming in and out of the art, which Amy, thank you so much for doing. I really appreciate it. Mwah. So this phase for me started when I went into middle school. I was just coming out of being homeschooled, and yes, I was homeschooled for a year of my life, and it was a very interesting experience. But this phase started directly after that, and it didn't happen like as soon as I got into middle school, but it was something that I basically just picked up along the way. When I started wearing cat ears, it was around the time of October, and somewhere around October, maybe November or September, I started doing this. And it was because I went with my mom to a store. I'm not sure if it was Claire's or if it was a Halloween store, but it was one of the two, and I basically found some cat ears there. And my first pair were not that great. And when I mean not that great, I mean they was tacky. Like, they was absolutely tacky. Like, oh my god. They were white snow leopard print cat ears. And if you can't get any more Lisa Frank than that, then I don't know how I'm gonna even describe this to you. It was just trust me when I say, looking back on it, it just did not look good. It was very tacky. Not only that, I was also going through my goth phase at this time. And so I was just this goth furry thing. It didn't look good. Like, maybe it did to a certain degree, but at least looking back on it, it didn't look that great. Thankfully, a year later, I got rid of those cat ears and switched to a nicer cat ears, and also came out of my goth phase, which I really miss. But anyway, let's go back to the cat ears. So like I said, I got my cat ears with my mom around like the fall months, and I was having a hard time fitting in at school. Like, it was just a very difficult time for me to fit in. And when I put on the cat ears and looked at myself in the mirror, I loved what I saw. Like, for some reason, it just felt right to me. It just felt like this is what I want to do. And so the next day, I ended up wearing the cat ears to school, and my mom was a little skeptical at the time. I can say that my mom didn't really enjoy the fact that I wore cat ears for a long time, probably forever. But she let me get away with it and basically wear cat ears to school. And the first time I did it, people were not too, like, you know, they weren't mean about it, and they didn't really question me about it at first. I guess a lot of people thought it was like around the Halloween months, and it's just, you know, something she's doing for the season, I guess. So I was able to kind of adapt to wearing them around the fall months, and it just felt, I don't know, I just felt very, you know, I enjoyed it, and it was fun for me. Not only that, I at the time thought it was a good fashion statement, but god, those leopard ears are not, like, oh my god. Maybe I'll post a picture someday, I don't know, I don't know. After the fall months, people started to realize that this is still going on. This is something that's very interesting. Because nowadays you have like the wired cat ears, and a lot of people wear them and stuff like that, but back then there was no such thing as that. You were wearing like the cheap Halloween cat ears if you could like get those, and it was only around the Halloween time that you can get that. Plus the wire ears look just so cute these days. I'm just like, oh my god, it's my calling. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. Let's go ahead and go back on it. So after a while in middle school, I started to attract attention that sometimes I didn't want, which was like, this is gonna be a pun, but catcalling, and people like just being absolutely rude and bullying me for doing this. And then there were people who were very accepting of this. They actually liked it and they wanted to be friends with me. And I'm not sure if they wanted to be friends with me because of the ears, but I think it was because after they found out who I was and that we had similar interests that we became friends. But yeah. So there were positives and negatives that came with this. A lot of people go through these kinds of things when they go through phases. You get positive reactions, you get negative reactions. For me, the way I looked at it was I was very comfortable with who I was. I was very confident back then. Not to say that I'm not confident now, but like I had more confidence than I gave myself credit for back then. So I just kept wearing the cat ears and I was just perfectly fine with doing that. And after a while it became very much accepted, and it became so accepted to the fact that I ended up getting a nickname for it. And my nickname was Kitty. That's right, my actual nickname in middle school and high school was Kitty. And that's the name that I went by back in the day because it was like everyone knew me for that. Like everyone just knew me as Kitty. Some people didn't even know my real name. So fast forward from middle school into high school. Now, high school, I have a ton of stories for, like a ton. I mean, I have a ton for middle school too, but high school was just a different beast altogether. And it was a very interesting experience. And I can't get into every single story, but maybe someday I'll tell you guys more stories about high school if I ever get super into it. But I went into high school and I was a freshman. And of course, at my high school, a lot of the seniors were not very nice to freshmen. I don't know what it is, maybe it was just the culture of my school or something like that, but it was very much evident that freshmen were very easy to be picked on. And because of my cat ears, I happened to be a good target for people to bully. The negative attention didn't stop me from doing what I loved. It was basically something that I went through and I wasn't going to stop doing it because it just, again, it was something that I, at the time, enjoyed doing. But that's not to say that my time wasn't miserable. It was just, I don't know. I was also picked on for a few other things as well, but that's, again, another topic for another time. After settling in during freshman year, I ended up making a lot of friends. I mean, not like a super crazy amount, but I made enough friends that I felt comfortable, like, walking in the halls with them and like, just being me. Eventually the year after freshman year, I pretty much didn't have a big issue with the cat ears anymore. It seemed like people came to accept the fact that, hey, that's just her and that's who she is and just leave her alone pretty much and there won't be any trouble. Not that I caused any trouble, but like, it's just that I noticed that a lot of the bullying started to like die down a little bit and a lot of people didn't really care once they found out that I wasn't gonna react the way they wanted me to. So anyway, going from freshman year into sophomore year, again, this was just something that people were like, hey, like this is totally her and this is who she is. A lot of my friends were really cool. A lot of them also started to adapt like their own way of like expressing themselves. Like I remember some of my friends wore the Naruto headbands and it was just really cool. And some of my friends dyed their hair and some of my friends got really crazy piercings, which like, I was like, how could you? Like, my mom will never let me get away with doing that. So even the cat ears were a stretch. So just seeing my friends like doing the craziest things was insane. So after freshman year, I go into sophomore year. And around this time, I guess the school is starting to get a little bit more stricter on their dress code, which back then I did not understand, but now I absolutely get because it's just the way things work sometimes. Sometimes the school doesn't make those rules, it's just rules they have to abide by. What happens next is very interesting because when I went into sophomore year, I, again, still wearing cat ears, nothing different. It's just, there's this one teacher that comes up to me and basically just like takes them away from me. Like she's just like absolutely rude and unreasonable to even talk to. She ends up taking them away and saying that it's like a childish thing, you shouldn't be wearing this on your head. And my argument was, I don't see how it's any different from a hairband. Like, I get that it's probably like very different, but I don't know. I feel like at the age of 13 to 18, you're very much expressing who you are, expressing yourself, and that's a very critical time for your development. Regardless, this was like the first teacher, I guess she was new, or maybe she wasn't. I'm not sure. Maybe she just never saw me before, but she just took him away and then like told me not to do it again. Of course, being a kid, I'm gonna do it again because, at this time I wasn't wearing those tacky ears anymore. I was wearing like the nice ears. I had like some black ones that looked really nice and I loved them a lot. But I made sure that I had extra ears. So I had a bunch of them. You know, like when the cartoon character like opens up their closet and they got like all of the same outfits? Like that was basically me, but with cat ears. I just had so many of them. So I end up wearing them again the next day, and again she sees me, and again she takes them away. She tells me this is my final warning, that I should stop doing this, and that it's just, you know, not something I should be doing. And I think if she had actually spent the time explaining her opinion and her perspective and what the rules actually were, then I think that we would have had a different understanding and I wouldn't have been as rebellious. But of course, the next day I end up wearing another pair to school, and so I get sent to the principal's office. At which point the principal, he already knows me by then. Like he just knows me by then because everyone knew me, everyone knew I did this. It wasn't anything super crazy. Regardless, the principal ends up having a sit down with me and the teacher, and they go in to talk about like, should they allow this or not, and if so, do they have to change the entire dress code? At which point I'm like, oh my god, please don't change the dress code because of me, because I'll stop wearing them, but I'm also like, ugh. And the next day what happens is the counselor actually comes up to me and basically says that it's been decided that you can still wear them, and I was just super happy about that. Again, it was nothing super crazy, but it was the first time that I ever had them taken away from me. And I guess it was just a very eye-opening experience for me, because, I don't know, I guess it was because so many of the other teachers were just so accepting of it and just very, like, you know, a lot of people were dyeing their hair, doing crazy things at the time, and so a lot of the teachers were like, I don't see what the issue is and stuff like that. So it was just a very interesting experience for me that kind of gave me a lot of perspective on what other people would think, because she was the first person who was just so, like, the first adult in my life that was very negatively vocal about it. And of course, when you're a kid, you think that adults are right all the time. Spoiler alert, not all the time are they right. But that goes the same for kids too. It goes the same for everybody. Not everybody's right all the time, and everyone has different opinions. And it just so happened that her opinion happened to very much affect the way that I looked at myself. And I don't know, it just kind of hurt, you know? It was very interesting. Regardless, after that, I ended up wearing my cat ears until junior year. And that's when I know I've been saying it's been very positive and negative and stuff like that. And at the time, I was okay with that. But there started to come a lot of drama with my friend group at the time. Again, it was crazy, and thankfully I was never in the middle of the drama. I was always like on the sidelines, but people would come to me for advice because they thought I was good at giving advice for some reason. At least back then I was not, but I was pretty blunt, and I guess that's what people liked about me. So at least in that year of high school I was pretty blunt. Not like I was always blunt. I was usually very socially awkward and shy, but I guess they would come to me and I would end up like hearing about their stuff and, you know, not getting involved with their drama, but like being close to them. And eventually around senior year, I think everybody started going their separate ways, because, you know, people were thinking about college, people were thinking about like all these kinds of crazy things. I guess I just fell out of that phase around senior year, and it was just, I don't know, it's just a fun memory to look back on. But for me, whenever I took off those ears for the final time, I was basically like saying goodbye to a part of me that I grew up with, but at the same time I needed to let go in order to move on. It was just this very symbolic moment where like I got rid of them. So I guess what I want you guys to leave here with this story time is, don't be afraid to be yourself. It's gonna be hard because there are people who are not going to be very accepting of yourself all the time, but to always persevere through whatever you're going through and to, you know, be who you are. I mean, of course you shouldn't be like me and disobey the rules, but if you believe you're standing up for something good, then you should keep doing it. And also try to be respectful of those around you to make sure that you're, you know, being good. And especially be good to each other, because like I can say that when I got bullied, it wasn't very nice. To be bullied for your differences is something that I've never believed in. But it happens and it sucks. And it's just a part that you gotta stick up for yourself for, or, you know, learn to get through. And trust me, it's better when you learn to get through it because you feel better about yourself for being who you are. So yeah, I was probably all over the place with the story time. I didn't take notes like I had last time. I had my notes and I was like, okay, I would do this. So next time I will take notes. But yes, for a good portion of my middle school into high school career, I was wearing cat ears for the longest time. It was quite the phase, and it was one, again, I look fondly on, but I also am like, God, those ears were so tacky. Jet, I don't think you understand how tacky those ears were. Like, they were just, I mean, like, you have cute ears, like, don't get me wrong, but... So anyway, guys, that is it for this story time. Let me know about phases that you guys have gone through, and if you were like, yeah, I love that, or if you were like, oh my God, what was I doing? Or maybe a mixture of both. It never hurts to look back on it and just kind of like smile, you know? Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Until then, take care. Bye-bye. Also, yes, I would, yeah.